Welcome to Respect the Hunt. We are Crabill Creek Outdoors, and we are kicking off a series for the beginning archer chasing whitetail deer. We're attempting to consolidate enough information in this series to help you put some venison in your freezer this fall. Now, this first episode, it's titled Why? And while you watch the clips that we have in this one, we want you to think about that question for yourself. Why did I make this decision to chase the whitetail deer with archery gear? Also, to kick off this, we are going to join Bo on a walk down memory lane. Memories are definitely one of the whys for us.
You got that one right there, and then I think this one over here is another one. God, there's like, hold on. All right, so moving in today to the new CCO North satellite headquarters, and coming across all the old buck racks that I got mounted up on these iron bucks, and thought we might go through a couple of the stories of the deer, because you know that's always kind of the best part. Is really, I feel like keeping the rack is just a means for telling the story later on. So this little guy here, little 9-point mainframe 8 with that nice little kicker off his brows, this guy would have been the youth gun season when I was 15. This is my sophomore year in high school. We were hunting at a property that is actually our namesake. It was off a place just off a road called Crabill Road with a little creek running in front of it. So that's where our name comes from. And my dad and I have had a pretty good history on youth weekends. We were very fortunate, and Ohio I think just does a good job. And when they place that kind of in late November, there's always a lot of buck movement. Always saw a lot of deer. But this particular morning we had not. It was dead calm, had not seen the first thing. One of those mornings where you're kind of spoiled just because you're sort of expecting a lot, and there had been a lot of deer movement recently. But at exactly 9:06, I remember that, this guy, as Dad and I were sitting on the tree, just kind of BSing, talking about how nothing was moving that morning. Turn around, and this guy slips out of the clearing about, 30 yards away, right there within bow range. And sure enough, able to get the old 20 gauge up on him, all reliable, take the shot right there and put him down in his tracks. And it was one of those deals where the whole thing transpired in about, 20 seconds from the time that you see him to the time he's on the ground. And I don't even mean that in, the sense that when you see a deer and it feels like time goes really fast. I think real time it was about 20 seconds, because we took that shot, the buck fell right there, and we kind of just looked at each other and laughed, because it turned the morning around that quick from us saying like, man, nothing's moving this morning, to having a buck dead on the ground within bow range. So that's the story of the 9-pointer.
Much thanks to Bo for sharing that story with us. Also, one of the whys that we have for us is camaraderie. So that's another reason we do this. We spend time together, a lot of time together in the off season practicing, and we use that time to help each other with our equipment, and then also to share strategies for the upcoming season. The sounds in this next clip are another reason why. After that, we follow up with a perfectly placed arrow on an early season evening hunt. Yes. This next clip we have is from a successful freezer filling hunt. It shows the amount of excitement that the hunter as well as the cameraman get from this amazing journey that you have decided to take.
Nice shot. That's on a knife. Oh, there's still 2 of them in that field. That was a That's a big nut.
These next few clips are just more examples of why we choose to go out into God's amazing creation and use archery gear in our quest to fill the freezer.
You good? Oh, well, there we go. How about that? Heck of a way to wrap up this day. Me and Dad got in here at about 11:45 today. Like we said, had some stuff going on this morning, but planned to sit out the rest of the day. And man, did we ever pick a good one.
And as we finish up here and we take this buck to the truck, we have a hunter profile from Bo answering some of the questions on how and why he chose this journey. All right, so this week's hunter profile, we got Bo with us. Bo's one of the founding members of Crabill Creek Outdoors, and we just kind of want to take the whole group through this series of questions to give you some different ideas and a different outlook. But we're going to jump right into it. And Bo, if you would, just give us a little history on how you got in to start hunting.
So hunting for me is just kind of something I guess I was born into, for lack of a better way to put it. I can't really remember a time that I wasn't around it or that I didn't think I was going to grow up and do it. So I guess just kind of through you guys, and I remember tagging along when I was really little, going out. I remember one hunt, there's a piece of public land not too far from where we live, just a little state park, and sitting under a pine tree out there with you. That's probably the very earliest hunting memory that I have. But yeah, just kind of through that, I guess, through osmosis, tagging along with you guys. And yeah, it was just always, for me, it was never I don't really remember a moment of being introduced to the idea of it. It was just kind of always a thing that was around, and like, oh yeah, when I get big, that's what I'm going to do. So
I understand that one. Yeah. Okay, so we just kind of want to talk, we've got this series coming out, and it's for beginning whitetail archers, right? So if you would just give us a little glimpse into why it seems like for me and for everybody around you, your main focus is whitetail archery hunting. Why would that be?
Probably, again, just related to, well, I guess there's probably a couple different parts to this answer. One being, again, growing up around you and Pop, right? That was the thing, right?
Sure.
That's what you guys did. And so I thought that was cool, you guys bringing home deer and stuff and going out in the woods and seeing them. So it was just like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do too. And then I think part of that, I guess a bigger answer, and probably influenced you guys as well, is, as far as whitetails anyways, chasing them, that's just kind of the big game animal here, right? I mean,
sure,
being in
absolutely.
Ohio, that's kind of, top of the food chain, not literally, but top of the food chain when it comes to hunters and big game animals. As far as archery specifically, I think a lot of it just has to do with, right, the way our seasons are structured. If you want to have a lot of time to hunt, that's what you're going to do. You're going to be a bow hunter.
Yeah.
Gun season here is not, I wouldn't call it restrictive necessarily, but you pretty much have a week of main season, couple extra days about a month later, and then 4 days of muzzleloader or whatever, and that's your gun season. So if you want to hunt more than 10 or 12 days a year,
right,
you're going to have to learn to bow hunt. For me though, it would be honest to say that I wanted to do it for availability. Just that's what you guys did. I thought shooting a bow was cool, and so that's what I wanted to get into too. And especially once I did get, I guess, the limited of the gun thing does play into it, in the sense of growing up, some of my first hunts were during the youth gun season.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I wasn't able at that point to pull back. Right, in Ohio, we have a 40-pound minimum for draw weights on archery equipment, or on compound bows, of course. And I couldn't pull that. So the way I was going to hunt was during the youth gun season. And so having done that, right, I had tagged along. Those were some of the first hunts of my own. But if you wanted to hunt any more than that, you're going to have to learn how to bow hunt. And I remember shooting a crossbow once that you got for me.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I was terrified of it. I really don't know why. So if I was going to bow hunt too, I was going to have to do it with a compound. and I was going to have to wait until I could pull 40 pounds to do it. So I guess a little bit of that, just if you like, you get a little bit of the bug, you want to hunt.
Sure.
So if you're going to hunt more than 10 or 12 days a year, you're going to have to bow hunt. And just because you guys did it, so I would have, I think, gravitated to that anyways. I just liked the idea of bow hunting and shooting a bow too,
Sure.
so.
Sure. Okay. Just another one, and we're setting these questions up kind of how we'll go through the videos and things we'll specifically bring out in the videos. So this one is just kind of, all of these are really preference for the most part, but this one is really about, what's your preferred method. And when I say that, I'm talking about, stand, a saddle, a blind, on the ground, still hunting, whatever that is. But yeah, what's your preference there and kind of why?
I would say, especially after the last few years, the saddle. I like I've always had a little bit of a hard time hunting off the ground. There's no real disadvantage to it in terms of your ability to find and see and even take deer.
Sure.
Obviously, there could be a little bit more of a challenge to it, right? You're at eye level. Movement's going to get picked up a little easier if you're worried about your scent, right? Maybe if you're up in the air a little bit, that could drift over and that kind of thing. The reason that I've struggled with it, though, is for whatever reason, man, I can't seem to, I don't like sitting on the ground. I feel like I can't pay attention as much. I don't know if it's just being spastic or what, but when I sit on the ground, either whether I have a ground blind or not, something about just being able to see the 20 yards or 30 yards in front of me, which is all you would need to take a deer, right? For me, I'm not going to shoot further than 30 yards anyways. So it doesn't really matter if a deer is beyond that. Yeah. But it's like I just can't focus. Like you just keep seeing that same background, and I have a hard time like staying plugged into it. Whereas for whatever reason, the vantage point of being elevated just kind of keeps me more focused.
Sure.
I guess because I'm a little bit, I know, okay, I can see all of this, so that's cool. I'll have a better idea if something's coming in or that. But I also just, I guess, I know that they can, in my head, I'm a little bit more out in the open, and I've got to be a little bit more on my game as far as like making sure you're slow with movement and those kind of things, which is probably counterintuitive. You probably got to do that more on the ground than you do from an elevated position, depending on the spot you've picked. But for whatever reason, just mentally, I like being able to see more stuff. So that's really all it comes down to.
Sure.
As far as the saddle itself, right, because you can achieve that just from a ladder stand, I like the flexibility of it. Specifically, the last few years, the climbing platform that we've come up with, the ability to just like, you've got a spot on a map, you want to go hunt there, you've seen deer, you know what I mean? You're hunting over a weekend or something like that. Hey, the last 3 bucks I've seen are all cutting that trail out here, and they're not coming down underneath this ladder stand. I may not need to move far, but if I can get 60 yards this way, well, that morning I can slip in and pick whatever tree I want there, climb up, and in 10, 15 minutes you're ready to go. So I just kind of like the freedom that comes with the saddle. So that, coupled with an easy and quick way to achieve that elevated position, for me, that's my go-to.
Okay. No, that's fair for sure. This one, for this particular guy, it's going to be a little bit different question for here in Ohio, because I'm going to say, what's your archery equipment choice, which, as you'll see through this series, because we have different videos picked out to speak to different things, he uses all available. But I guess I'm asking here, what's your preference? So in the archery world in Ohio, what we're talking about, we can use crossbows legally. There's no restrictions to those. And then we have compounds, longbows, that kind of stuff. He's also delved off a little bit into the vertical crossbow world. So anyways, that's what this question is really, is what's your preference there and kind of why?
My preference, especially the last couple of years, not only what I have to say crossbow, but specifically that, and this is not some kind of plug, even though it's going to sound like a commercial, but that Hickory Creek mini vertical.
Sure.
The last couple years, just especially like starting to have kids and stuff like that, I love to hunt. I love the fact that archery season gets you out in the woods more. I'd be lying if I said I practice enough once the season kicks off to feel super confident with my bow. Could I find the time to do that? Probably. But for me, the enjoyment I get out of hunting is more about just doing it and less really what I've got with me when I do it.
Sure.
And it hasn't really impacted setups and stuff like that. Like, I'm still, you know, limiting shots to 30 yards and stuff like that. But the way I feel most confident is with a crossbow. And specifically, I like that Hickory Creek Mini because it's super light. Very easy to maneuver in the tree because of that vertical design, and especially saddle hunting, you don't have horizontal limbs where, you know, when you're facing the tree, you've got to worry about those kicking out and hitting the tree or something like that. So if I had to say preferred method of hunting, I like that, just because I feel like, I don't know, that's the thing. I feel like I've got the best chance to go out there, and when I let that arrow fly, put it in the vitals. I think that is, yeah, because for me too, that's been kind of an interesting, I wouldn't say I had the typical path with that.
Yeah, sure.
Most guys, right?
Sure.
You kind of, as you get introduced with that, you hunt with a crossbow and then end up graduating right into a vertical bow. For me, I didn't, and partially because of what I said. For whatever reason, I don't know why. I had shot a gun at that point, and it didn't freak me out having recoil. But I remember shooting that crossbow and something about the vibration.
No, it makes sense.
I remember being freaked out. I have no idea why. Yeah. So I never hunted with a crossbow as a kid. I remember one time, as I was kind of on the cusp of being able to draw 40 pounds, I took my grandpa's crossbow one morning and sat in the tree with him. I was ready to shoot. I didn't feel weird about it then, but that was really the only sit I ever had with a crossbow as I started hunting. So all of my actual, you know, the first bow I ever took with any kind, or first deer I ever took with any kind of archery equipment was with a compound bow. And killed several with it. Wasn't until I was like 26.
Yeah,
that
for
I
sure.
started hunting with the crossbow.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess that would be my preference.
Yeah, so that coincides with marriage and kids, right? And time available. Yeah, so, you know, anyways, yeah, it's something to just remember because there's a lot of truth in that. Yeah. But so kind of next question, you know, if they watched us any before we put the series out or not, they know we hunt a lot of private, but you know, just wanting to ask everybody preferences, public or private.
Okay. I would say, I mean, I've hunted both. But I mean, if I'm being honest, yeah, preference, I'd have to say public or private.
Sure.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And part of that is because, right, I'm fortunate. Some of the land we hunt, fortunate to be longtime buddies with a farmer whose family, you know, farms thousands of acres around us.
Right.
We don't have access to all of that, but the particular parcel we do, you know, we've got kind of exclusive access to it, I guess, the last 10 years. Yeah. And it's a great deer hunting spot.
Pretty exceptional. Yeah.
Right. So it's hard for me, right? Like, we have public options around us and pretty good ones. Like I said, I've hunted there and had a lot of fun. But if you're telling me, like, right, it's November and a cold front's coming in, I know where I'm going to be. And it's going to be on that piece of private. Sure. So if I had to pick a preference, what I do like about public, though, I guess maybe a flip side to that, if I'm doing any kind of like small game hunting or something where I'm a little more active in the woods, I do like public for that reason, because it feels less like I'm going to have a chance of like spooking something off the property or whatever. You can't control those variables, right? So one, it's awesome to have free access to all that ground that anybody, you know what I mean, a hiker or a bird watcher or a guy who wants to fish has just as much right to it. So you can't control that stuff anyways. So there's a little bit of freedom in that, setting up where you want to hunt and kind of doing it the way you want to without, on private land, particularly deer hunting, you've got a little bit of that concern of, are they going to pattern me? If I push this deer 100 yards off his normal pattern, that might be off the property, right? You haven't really interrupted him that much in the grand scheme, but it's on the other side of that line. That
for sure. Absolutely.
So yeah, advantages and disadvantages to both. But yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said that, especially for deer hunting, that private.
Okay.
My preference.
Yeah. Okay. So really kind of last question to wrap it up here. Butcher shop or process yourself?
Process myself, for sure.
Why is that?
That, again, for me, kind of goes back to personal experience. That's always what you guys did. Yeah. So just growing up around it, again, it was never a thought that I would take it somewhere to have it butchered, even though that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do for a lot of reasons. Not everybody has the time or the equipment or desire to do that themselves, and no shame in that, right? I get it. But it would almost feel weird to me to not, just because that's always what I've seen done. And I, you know, having grown up doing it, I enjoy that, right? I think that's a cool part of being able to, the whole process, I guess, taking something from, right, you picked this spot in the woods, you set up, you made a clean kill, you took the thing out, processed it, and now you've got, steak on your table, or
Sure.
right,
Yeah.
a bowl, or a bowl full of pot roast. So that's cool. I like being able to be there for every step of the way and say, like, I did this.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't do anything super crazy with the meat itself. My thought is kind of like, I've got cuts for steak, I've got cuts I'm going to grind, and I've got stuff I'm going to slow cook. So
Yeah, sure.
it's not anything super complex, and I can just organize it and have it set up the way I want to. So yeah, definitely process my own is my preference, and I've never actually done it any other way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I guess that's true.
yeah.
Anyways, certainly thankful that you took the time.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of feedback here for the viewers, and hopefully you all can pick something up from it and take it with you this fall.